Is Wild worth the hype? I really want to like this. If you're anything like me, you've seen this brand all over your social media feeds, and they've even got a TV ad out now. So here's my honest review of using Wild natural deodorant on and off over the past year. If you're interested in eco products, then check out my channel and subscribe for more product reviews with that sustainability lens. But for now, let's dive into Wild deodorant. So what is Wild anyway? Wild deodorant is a natural deodorant that is refillable, and because of that it's treated as like a sustainable product. It's made using natural ingredients, is vegan, cruelty-free, all of that stuff, and ideally it's stopping you from throwing away loads of packaging like this or whatever you normally buy your deodorant in. By refilling it instead, you're preventing that single-use plastic from going into landfill. When your deodorant arrives, you get your case and your refill or refills that you're going to pop into the case. And the idea is that you only need to purchase those refills and you keep this case. This case is made from aluminium and post-consumer recycled plastic. So while they do talk about it being plastic free, there is some plastic inside it. That means that this case is harder to recycle. You can send it back to them and they have a TerraCycle scheme so that they can recycle it, but they've recently redesigned their case so those two materials can be separated by yourself at home so you can recycle them separately. I do think that's a slight flaw though, because realistically curbside recycling is not that great, and especially the coloured plastic I don't think would be recycled, so it might be better to send it to them. When you're refilling it, on this older version of the case, you do have to wind it all the way back down again before you can pull it out by pressing these. And to be honest, I find that really difficult to do, not unwind it, though I did forget the first few couple of times, but to push it out using these two buttons. But in the new case that they have designed, they've made that more user-friendly, so you don't have to put as much pressure. So that's kind of welcome, but if you've already got the case, that's not something you can do. You could obviously buy a new case, but that kind of defeats the whole point. So yeah. I do think it's important though to look at the case as a whole, because while they market it as being plastic free, there is a lot of plastic in this. Like, it is post-consumer recycled, but this whole thing is plastic. This is aluminium. The outside of this is aluminium, but the inside is fully plastic. So I'd be interested to see what their new case looks like, but I think it's kind of a little bit greenwashy not to fully explain that your case is actually primarily plastic with a little bit of aluminium, rather than the way they're leading with the fact it's made from aluminium and a little bit of plastic. So yeah. They got customer feedback that with these older cases, because of the way that this refill sits on top, the bottom part of the refill was really difficult to get to, and you'd kind of have to take it out and apply it yourself. So they've redesigned this bit so it sits differently onto the container. Like, this part of it is on the bottom of here instead, so kind of like this. And that means that it pushes all the way up instead. So that's great if you've got a new case. And I also really like that they listen to their customers and have adapted their product because of that. Their little slogan is powered by plants, meaning that the ingredients are made from naturally derived ingredients. There are no sulfates in there, or parabens, or any aluminium. So they're not an antiperspirant, they are a deodorant. What that means as well is that you might still sweat. Spoiler alert, you will sweat. But the idea behind it is that you don't smell while you're sweating, but it doesn't have aluminium in it, so it won't be an antiperspirant and won't stop that sweat from happening. They're vegan, cruelty-free, and they never test on animals. So if that's important to you, like it is to me, then that's one of the things that I thought was really great about Wild. My favorite bit, let's talk about their sustainability credentials. They've got 4 main pillars that they go by: refill, remove, reduce, and radical transparency. First up, refill, i.e. you buy one case and that's you done. You don't need any more single-use cases. All you're doing is refilling the one that you've got. That's great in principle, except for the fact that they keep bringing out new limited edition cases. I love that they're doing collabs with other brands and charities and raising awareness about different things, but I do wish that they were doing it in a different way than bringing out a new case and promoting that on social media, trying to build the hype and get you to purchase that case. That, in my opinion, kind of goes against their sustainability values and the whole point of refilling the case. Their second pillar is remove, which means no unnecessary chemicals in their products. They try to use naturally derived ingredients instead that are sustainably sourced. That is another big benefit and one of the main reasons that I would prefer to use a natural deodorant. Pillar 3 is reduce. That means reducing waste and carbon where possible. They offset their carbon by planting trees. So that's great that they're planting trees, but that's also not the only solution. And I was pretty impressed that they are very upfront about that, so they know that they can't just offset all of their carbon, and they're looking at ways to achieve net zero without only offsetting, so looking at their current emissions, where that's coming from, and the full life cycle of the product. There aren't many brands that are doing that, so that's a really big benefit. And number 4 is radical transparency. What they mean by that is having a transparent supply chain and setting high ethical standards within that supply chain and across the industry as a whole. This is very welcome. Hardly any brands have this information on their website. I read their impact report from last year, 2023, and I loved how transparent it is, also about where their shortfalls are and what they're trying to do to combat those. They're clearly open about this, and they're now B Corp certified, which is a standard that a lot of brands try to reach, which shows how sustainable their business is, environmentally, socially, and that runs all the way through their supply chains. I also love that they are a small, sustainable brand that is succeeding. They've got excellent branding and I love what they stand for. I just wish they did a few less collabs. Really, I'm excited to see them push sustainability higher up the agenda for toiletries and skincare. Right, it's review time. What do I actually think about the product and how well it works? First up, the scents. I think the scents are great. They are pretty long lasting. So while you can smell it on the deodorant itself, you can also smell it on yourself, which isn't always the case for natural deodorants, so I was really pleased with that. The texture, I've heard some people not like the texture, and to be honest, I think it's if you're just not used to using a natural deodorant and you use a spray or you use a roll-on that's more of a liquid rather than a solid, then you will notice the difference. When it's on, like, you can barely tell that it's on. It is creamier though, so it's like having a cream on your armpits, not a spray. It doesn't soak into your skin as much as other traditional deodorants do. I personally don't see that as a negative though, but I know that some people might not like that. With that as well, I wouldn't say that I get any yellow stains on my clothes. That actually normally comes from aluminium that's in deodorants, but I also wouldn't say that it doesn't stain my clothes. It's not the kind of stain that is yellow and sticks there. It's more like there's a bit of product left on my t-shirt or whatever it is if it's tight up against my armpits. I didn't get a rash from this deodorant, and I do sometimes from deodorants that have got baking soda in them. This one does, and the ones that I've been using for the past year on and off do all have bicarbonate of soda in them, as they often do for natural deodorants. You can get some that use different ingredients instead, and Wild do that sensitive range as well. If it is cold or just generally in the winter, this gets much firmer and it's harder to apply immediately. You sort of have to put it on your skin to allow your skin to heat it up before you rub it. So it's much easier to apply in the summer than it is in the winter. But that didn't really bother me so much because a lot of natural deodorants are like that, and I've kind of just got used to that being a thing. So in terms of sweating, I do sweat with this. Generally, I'm a fairly sweaty person, so that's not too surprising. And because it's not an antiperspirant, I am going to sweat more. But I would say that I sweat quite a lot with Wild. Sometimes, this is probably a bit TMI, but to the extent that I will have like drips from my armpit if it's a hot day, or if I've done some exercise, which I don't have with other natural deodorants. I've been using natural deodorants for 4 years. I'm pretty sure it's been 4 years at least since I've used anything but a different type of natural deodorant. So I was pretty surprised about how much I sweat with this one, and I'd actually say this is one that I sweated the most with. If it's the first time that you have ever used a natural deodorant and you're looking to switch to Wild, then be prepared that you will sweat more, especially in the first 2 to 3 weeks when you're transitioning from a non-natural deodorant to a natural one. Your body goes through this transition phase and you are gonna sweat and you are probably gonna stink a little bit as well. So be prepared for that and don't just think that that particular deodorant isn't working for you, that most deodorants that are natural will have the same effect. One way to stop that or slow it down is to do an armpit detox using simple ingredients that you've got at home. To make the armpit detox, you add 1 tablespoon of baking soda with 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar and 1 to 2 teaspoons of water. You apply that to your armpits, wait about 10 to 20 minutes and then rinse it off with warm water and soap. If you've got sensitive skin or you don't want to use bicarbonate of soda, you can also get soap bars with activated charcoal in them, and that works really well as an armpit detox. It's the moment of truth. Would I recommend Wild? I really want to like this, but it just doesn't work for me. I've been trying this on and off for a year, just to see, you know, as my body settles, changes of seasons, all of that, and I just stink. I've talked about how I still sweat using this, but it's not just sweating, like it actually doesn't work for me. I love how transparent the brand is. I love that they're learning from customer feedback, but what can I do? I wish it worked, but it's not the one for me. All is not lost because I have a couple of other recommendations that I actually swear by. Can you tell that I like the colour orange? This is Fussy Deodorant, another refillable brand. So you pop the refill into here and away you go. This has got to be my favourite natural deodorant brand. I absolutely love it. Don't stink with it. Only sweat a little bit, just as is normal, and yeah, this is the one that I will always reach for. My second favourite is Act Deodorant. It's a little different because it comes in an aluminium tube and you push out the little bit of deodorant at the end. I've got hardly any of this left and I am rationing it. It smells really great and I really love the scents of this brand. It's just slightly more expensive. If you are looking for natural deodorants, then these are 2 that I recommend, and I'll pop all the details of the deodorants I've talked about in the description. The more I've looked into natural deodorants and tried all these different brands, the more I realised that what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for someone else. That's not ideal when you're first trying to make sustainable choices. But don't be put off, there will be one out there that is perfect for you. Until next time!